and then rest it on your sponge.
And swish, swish.
Swish, swish, wipe, wipe. When I teach the class, I put a big piece of newspaper on the whiteboard.
Was it in the water we were supposed to do that?
Yes. It's great. You're a great 5-year-old. Thank you so much. Just with the water. We're waking up the bristles. When you use a dry paintbrush, it will take on a lot more paint than we want it to take on. It's just hard to move the paint, so we just get a wet brush. I put a big piece of newspaper and I tape up my piece of white paper like this. But I'll just do it here. All right, tip.
Because you're actually going to do it while they're doing it.
I do, you do. I do,
That's
you do.
kind of the mistake we made last class.
With the shade. And it's a little different. This one's very directed.
See?
It's okay. It's okay. Did you see monsters at the end? Yes. Okay. It's all good. It's all good. This one's a little bit more directed.
Okay.
So I would do it like this.
Okay.
And
Are you leading this class?
Yes, I will eat it.
I use magnets, and so I just put my magnets here, and then I move them up to the top like that. But I'm just going to paint here a little easier today. What does that say? Oh, I think it's easier for kids to paint standing up. And so I make sure before I start teaching there's no sweaters on the coats and backs of chairs. And they can sit to put their name on, and they can sit to do this, or they can stand up, whatever, I think it's easier. But when they're sitting, their arms just aren't as long as ours. And they tend to paint like this. I really want them to use wide strokes because we have to fill this whole line. So, and when I paint standing up. So, all right, you're going to watch me. I'm going to take the tip of my brush and stick it in the blue. And I walk around. Do you see how much blue I have? Then my white cup, I'm going to hold with my other hand, and I'm going to mix my blue paint in. And I walk around the room. Do you see how I'm mixing, and I'm stirring, and I'm wiping my brush to dribble out the blue.
This is giving me heart palpitations.
Oh, it's fine, it's fine. They get the hang after once or twice doing this with them. It's fine. Mix. Now, I walk around holding this, but I have found a few kids who think, oh, they're supposed to like hold this up high. Boys and girls, you're going to hold yours on the table. All right, now, you don't start yet. You don't start yet. I'm going to do this upside down. I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to do my long strokes, pulling my paint across. So I'm demonstrating this on the board. Long strokes, pulling the paint across. I have to get more paint. When it's really dry like this, the paint doesn't move very easily. And sometimes, if it's really dry, what you can tell the kids, you don't have to do this, just a tip. You see it's really hard for the paint to move, tell them to go into the water once and then go back to the paper. And it just helps the paint flow a little bit more. I'm going to make a streak across the top of my paper that's about 3 or 4 kindergarten fingers wide. Okay? Got it? Now, I'm not done. Swish, swish, wipe, wipe. Swish, swish, wipe, wipe, swish, swish, wipe, wipe, brush goes on the sponge. Okay, you guys do it. And do you see how I have dribbles and a little drop of paint? If kids will do that, it's all fine. It will become a bubble on my fish, or it will become seafood. It's all okay. And if a child is doing the little micro painting like this, I put my hands right at the top of theirs. I'm like, no, we're pulling it across the paper.
That moisture really does help it move.
What?
I said that water really does help it move.
I don't want to really get into that with kids because all of a sudden they're going to be using more water to paint. But it's just like my little tip to them. You know, I just kind of come and do it once and it's a
We do the first streak and we haven't put the
and then they
paintbrushes down.
rinse, wipe,
Rinse, wipe.
and then rest on the sponge. And then I use that as my clue to the kids. Oh, I see table 1. Everybody's sponge is down. Good job. I see table 2.
And do they use the sponges for this part, or do they use the brushes?
The brushes. For which part?
This part right now.
Wiping it like that. They use the cup to wipe it off. Is that what you're talking about? So we swish, and then we rest the. the rest of the brush on the sponge. There you guys go now. Now you have your brush.
Oh, this
And it just gives them a place to park their sponge or their brush. Okay. People want to know like what the formula is for making our tints. Basically, it's each time you add more glue. So I start with a tip. The next time I tell the kids, oh, it's, maybe this much glue. And I walk around and show them. And then I mix that in, okay? So you guys can go ahead and do this with me now, but you probably need to be a little bit more direct with your kids.
Okay.
So here's the reason why we only want enough white to cover the bottom. It's going to, because we use a little more white today, it's going to start taking more and more glue to make this darker. And even when you just cover the bottom of the cup, people are like, oh, it's not enough paint, it's not enough paint. It always works out to be enough paint.
Okay.
I think we're going to have a hard time making this darker, but we'll see. Now, when I put it on my paper, I'm going to do another stripe, and as long as it looks darker and mine looks darker, great. Our goal is to get about 6 or 7 stripes now.
And you want us just to keep going until we get it?
Nope, so I'm going to be more directed with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying about the whole monster thing, it's the last lesson.
Yeah.
Even though it was more free, it felt like we had kind of lost the lesson. It just became like this.
It's hard. And I think as adults too, we went to all different operating systems, and some of us kind of like control. I like a little bit of control.
Yeah.
And others of us are more like loosey goosey. And classroom teachers are that way. But if you're kind of a control person, you get to less like a monster. We